It is ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tanisha. Dylan Mathews filling in, for the second consecutive day. You know, you guys was rocking with Dylan. You know, we got a lot of people, man. I'm telling you, man, everybody was in the comments like, yeah, man, I like my boy Dylan. That's my dog. He is the host of the Hometown Take on 929 The Game from 5 a.m. 6 a.m. For those you want to check that bad boy out, after you check us out and download whatever you download your podcast, man, we're right here, free and available on YouTube as well. Now, Dylan, Arthur Smith told us yesterday, you know, he was running out through a few names and saying that, hey, man, you know, these guys aren't going to be around for a couple weeks. Like, wait a minute, hold up, coach.
What you mean?
Few weeks? What you mean?
Right.
And one of those names I thought was very interesting. Cordarrelle Patterson is going to miss a couple weeks. Now, we're just probably about 3 weeks or so-ish, you know, away from the opener against the Carolina Panthers.
Right.
Now, I started thinking about, you know, touches. I'm trying to do some math, man. I started doing some math, right? You know what I mean? Because, you know, Cordarrelle Patterson a little up there in age.
Yeah.
And when you think about guys coming off an injury, you don't immediately thrust those guys back into the fold.
No.
You got to have a little ramp-up period.
Yeah,
So
got to
here's
ease
what
them
I'm-
in.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've been in the league for a minute. It's a bet, man. You know, so for me, what I started thinking about is, given how Arthur Smith I feel like he's going to be in a room somewhere with the lights turned off trying to figure out how he's going to divvy up these touches each and every Sunday at 1 o'clock. I think the decision has been made. I think we're going to see more Bijan once the season starts, when you're talking about getting this guy the football as much as possible, whether it be handing it off or, you know, throwing him getting the rock from Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, I definitely think more Bijan. Give me more Bijan. I'm all here for it. Now, of course, we want Cordarrelle Patterson to be back in the fold as soon as possible because he brings a whole nother dynamic to this team, obviously as a receiver, as a ball carrier as well. But I'm not going to be mad at seeing the Rook a little bit more because of the things he can do as a receiver and as a ball carrier. And as Arthur Smith called him on many occasions, a home run hitter. So the more touches he gets, the more chances he has at hitting a home run and scoring some touchdowns for the Atlanta Falcons. So I think with having Tyler Algier and having Bijan, those two guys are enough, especially towards the beginning of the season where guys are going to be at their healthiest. You know, obviously when you get down towards the season, you get nicked up, banged up a little bit, but especially at the beginning of the season, guys are a little bit more healthier, a little bit more spry, got a little bit more pep in the step. That's an okay time for Cordarrelle Patterson to miss if he's going to miss any regular season time. Arthur Smith, like you alluded to, when he said Cordarrelle Patterson was going to miss a few weeks, he also said, you know, they'll reevaluate probably a week before week 1 to see exactly where he's at. So yet to be seen if he's going to miss some regular season time, Cordarrelle Patterson. But if he does, I ain't tripping. Just put the Rook out there a little bit more. Put number 7 out there a little bit more. Him and Tyler Algier can carry the backfield. They can hold the backfield down. CP, take your time. We're going to need you down the stretch. So however long you need to take, you don't got to rush him back. And look, that's the one good thing, Jarvis, about what the Falcons have this year. Not only on defense that we were talking about earlier, but on offense too. You have depth. And you're going to need it. That's one thing the Falcons have been lacking because of the salary cap restrictions and obviously things of that nature. So you've been having that problem in the past of, you know, one guy gets hurt, you know, there goes everything. We saw A.J. Terrell and Casey Hayward go down, and Cornell Armstrong, no shade, was trying to guard Jamar Chase, and that's a mismatch. Just be frank about it. That's a mismatch. But you won't have that this year. And then on offense, too, you aren't going to have any drop-off because Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson are way, way more than capable of getting the job done. If Cordarrelle Patterson does end up having to miss the first 2 games, even the first 3 games, it's all good. Just let me get more Bijan.
Yeah, because that's what everybody wants to see, right? Like,
yeah.
And here's the thing. Like, not only more Bijan, I mean, I like what I saw with Tyler Algier last year.
Yeah,
that was a good look.
That Tyler Algier. People forget he broke the Falcons' rookie rushing record, and he only played in 16 games. He wasn't even active week 1. People forget about that. So Tyler Algier, he can do some nice things too. And also, I think people forget last year he was pretty good catching balls out of the backfield.
And add to this, like that record had stood before both of us were born. Like, and we're in 2 different generations, right?
Exactly. That record was up there for a long time.
William Andrews, for those who don't know. Yes, he broke that record. 1979. Yes, that's what we're talking about here.
I wasn't even a thought.
Yeah, man, come on, man. You know, hey, mom and dad were just getting warmed up for me. You know what I mean? Like, I hadn't even got my brother yet. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's kind of where we at with it. But you know, in all seriousness, though, I think that having multiple weapons, and I think just the depth, like, because I think that's kind of what we are. Like, that's the theme for me going in for the 2023 season. Is the fact that not only the Falcons have some money to play with, like they spent right. Like, because I asked Arthur Smith yesterday after practice about bringing in certain guys and what does it mean to bring in those veterans. And I thought he said something that was kind of interesting. He started talking about like not only bringing in guys who can play, but bringing the right guys who can play, because you can see how the effect that it has on the younger guys in the locker room, all the young impressionable guys, because hey, they trying to do what they need to do to stick around. Arnie Ebiketie, he's trying to do what he needs to do to, justify this second-round pick. Man, I want to get more sacks anyway, as much as possible. How can I do that? And when you bring in a guy like Calais Campbell, bring in a guy like Bud Dupree, Arthur Smith kind of talked about like, hey, this is the right thing. He's like, you just don't spend money willy-nilly. Like, hey, you got to give shouts out to your scouting department, your pro personnel department, all that stuff. It's a lot that goes into it. People that just think that, hey, it's monopoly money and just go out and spend it. But I think that the interesting point that he made is like bringing in the right guys. And when you have guys, bringing in the right guys, and those guys still can play, it's not just you fall in love with a name. Those guys are going to have that, give you that depth that you need in order to be able to make a run in your division. That's pretty much most people are saying, and I say this too, I feel like it's up for grabs at this moment. So when you have that type of depth that you can, hey, Cordarrelle Patterson, the guy, what he can do on the field. If he goes down, if he's slowed in that first week or first 2 weeks, you're more than, like you said, you're more than capable to get the job done.
Exactly. And two, the other point about this is, this will give us a chance to find out also, because there is going to have to be, life after Cordarrelle Patterson, and you're still going to want a little running back depth. And since we're not going to have a guy like Caleb Huntley at our disposal, unfortunately, he had the Achilles injury, and the Falcons decided to move on. Now we can see what we have out of Carlos Washington Jr. or Godwin Igwebuike. Hopefully I said that right. I know that name a little hard. But
42 for me. Like, right. Yeah, that's how I refer to him on this show.
But I ain't mad at you. I'm going to call him 4-2 as well. 4-2, who scored a touchdown in the Falcons' first preseason game on Friday. We can see more of them and see what they look like in the regular season and see if, there's something there. And maybe they can have a future as a depth piece on this team as well, because one of the positions you can never have too much depth that I feel like is definitely running back, definitely defensive back as well, and defensive line. I mean, those are all positions where you can never have too much depth. So being able to maybe give those guys a couple of snaps, give them some reps and see what they're capable of and see what they can do, because, looking good in the preseason against the 2s and 3s is one thing, but how you look up against, the other team's best is another thing as well. So maybe we'll be able to see that if Cordarrelle Patterson does have to miss a little extra time. So, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing with Tyler Algier and Bijan obviously at the tip of the spear, seeing what we have in Carlos Washington Jr. and 4-2 as well.
and another position that I feel like that you can't have enough depth at is offensive line. We know
for sure
it's been real skimpy, for the Atlanta Falcons for the past few years, specifically in this regime of Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot. We found out yesterday also that I've been hearing little rumblings that Matt Hennessy, he wasn't right, and we found out that he wasn't right. They sent him to IR, so he's done for the season.
Yep.
Does that concern you as far as Ryan Newsell and Jalen Mayfield potentially being your swing tackle? Do you think that Terry Fontenot might start picking up the phone and saying, hey, let's see what's out there?
I don't think at the moment, no. I think they're going to let the preseason play out, let these guys get some reps, see how it goes, see how they do, because I'm not going to lie, keep it a buck, Jalen Mayfield didn't look half bad out there on Friday. He was solid. He was okay. He didn't. Right, exactly. He wasn't. He was better than what we had seen Jalen Mayfield previously before.
And so that's what matters.
So that was the good thing. He there was really nowhere for him to go but up. But at least he went up and didn't say the same. But with all that being said, between him, Ryan Newsell, I think Terry Fontenot will see what he has in those guys as of right now. If they're not looking good in preseason, then we may see him venture out, maybe bring in some more bodies and maybe try to find a solution there. It definitely does concern you because, again, you want all the depth you can get. And Matt Hennessy was a guy who started 17 games for you at center in 2021, started 11 or played in 11 games last year, and was going to be your, again, a swing guard, center. I mean, just a good depth piece at offensive line, which, again, absolutely, like you said, you can never have too much depth at. So losing him definitely is a big piece because that was a good depth piece. And look, he was competing for that starting left guard position with Matthew Bergeron. I think at the end of the day, we all wanted to see Bergeron anyway, but this isn't the way we wanted to see Bergeron. We wanted to see him win the job outright, going up against Matt Hennessy, not kind of getting it by default, because that's kind of what it feels like now, honestly, with Matt Hennessy going down with the injury. So I think it's a big deal. However, I do think at this moment the Falcons have the depth to deal with the injury. But again, second preseason game is going to be on Friday, even though we will see the starting offensive line to start the game. Once, the Jalen Mayfields and the Ryan Nusels and those guys get in, we're going to have to watch them again and see if they can put up another good performance like they did on Friday. Because, again, they were able to run the ball well with a 4-2 and Carlos Washington. So hopefully they can, put that performance out again, and hopefully we don't see a tremendous dip in the offense when the starters come out and the second team guys come in.
Yeah, and in my conversations with Terry Fontenot, is the one thing I know about him, he's always looking to upgrade.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That's
a fact.
Yeah, if that time comes where he might need to pick up the phone, I'm sure he'll have all the information he needs to know who to call. I'll put it that way. And also, we know you guys, y'all everydayers. You guys know who to come to when it comes to downloading our podcast. Locked On Sports Atlanta. We got Hitting Hard with John Chuckery. We have also ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We got a roster of people who have been filling in for Teacher on a very, very good way. So we thank you guys for rocking with us each and every day. Like I said, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast, and make sure that you subscribe and like our YouTube channel.